Okay, so we finished our testing at BayouAdvancedWeaponSystems.com, area318.com on the web, short URL. Anyway, what we did today, again, we did extensive testing with Laura's paper cartridges. Paper cartridges are treated with a nitrate, and we ran velocity and speed tests. We weren't going for accuracy today, but I can tell you the accuracy is phenomenal with the paper cartridges from prior testing. But I wanted to prove that the percussion caps, whether they be number 10 CCI or number 10 Remington, or even we tested number 11 CCI Magnum caps, and they actually produced a far less average velocity, and also the standard deviation was wild on the Magnum primers. So the best paper cartridges that Laura loaded up for us we used Remington number 10. We had an average velocity of 771.8 with a very low standard deviation. We'll run the numbers and figure that out later, but it was very low. And then we moved on to just a Remington number 10, 35 grains, round ball with felt, no paper patch in the straight cylinder. Okay, so same powder charge, but no paper, and we had an average of 612. So the paper patch ran 771, the same charge, but in a bare cylinder was 612.4. After we did all that proofing between what is better, it was an obvious winner that round number 2, string 2, the Remington number 10 with the paper cartridges that Laura made for us were absolutely the best as far as average velocity and lowest standard deviation. Then we moved on to testing factory smokeless cartridges. Yes, smokeless. You can use smokeless in a cap and ball if you know what you're doing. So the first test we used was a 250 grain lead factory Winchester cases, and its velocity was 705.2, considerably lower than Laura's paper patch. So right off the bat, we should prove that the factory smokeless cowboy loads were not as fast as Laura's nor as accurate. We then moved on to our hand loads. I loaded these, but Laura has been a big help at acquiring the reloading components we need. So 255 grain semi-wad cutter, CCI 350 Magnum primer, large pistol Magnum primer, Virgin Winchester 45 Colt cases. Some people call them long Colt. That was not the proper nomenclature. In the old days, they just called it 45 Colt. Nowadays, we have 45 ACP and 45 Colt and so on. It's called 45 Colt, not long Colt. But we loaded that with 8.6 grains of universal smokeless powder, and again, CCI 350 primer. It's a Magnum primer for large rifle Magnums. And we brought the speed way up. We had the speed about 880.2, and we had very low standard deviation. It was very, very consistent load. Also, a word of safety, yes, you can use smokeless powder in a percussion revolver. Big no-no. You do not put smokeless in a percussion cylinder. You don't put smokeless in it. Okay, enough said. Now, you do load smokeless in 45 Colt cartridge cases, and it's called cowboy load. Cowboy load means that you're going to keep your velocity at 1,000 feet per second, and that puts your average PSI down around 14,000 pounds per square inch versus the standard 45 Colt for modern weapons is 30,000 plus PSI. So we also proved that if you look at the cases, they show no signs of pressure, no bulge at the case head. The primers are deep, but they're not flattened. And they should be deep because the priming ring, or the firing pin ring for the crisp converter, has a pretty deep firing pin. It makes sure that those are going to fire. If you have a little end plate in your cylinder, you're still going to hit the primer and it's still going to go off. We had 100% bang rate. We had no failures today on anything that we tested, other than the 11 Magnum caps by CCI we proved had a wild standard deviation. So that was a really good test today. And again, if you want to know how to safely shoot smokeless powder, in a old percussion style pistol, whether it be a Colt 1860 or a Remington 1858 like this.
That's an original.
And this is the original. This is not a Uberti or not a Pieta. And so we prove that you can do it in old school still safely, as long as you know what you're doing with the R&D or Christ converters. This is the Christ converter. We prefer them because they're 5-shot, has a lot of meat between the cylinder walls. I feel very safe about running this to 1,000 feet per second. Maybe for me a little over 1,000, but right at that 800, 900 foot per second. This thing is very safe. No signs of pressure, no wear, no stress cracks. This thing is phenomenal. So if you want to learn how to shoot smokeless powder and load in a percussion, give us a call at 833-AIM-FIRE, 833-246-3473. Call me direct on my cell phone, 24/7, 731-607-6527, and we'll help you out. Okay? Thanks for dropping by.